Good morning. So we're going to look at reflection today. So when we reflect a shape, again, it will stay the same size, but we are reflecting it into a mirror line. And this red dotted line here is the mirror line. So just like a reflection, when you look at yourself in the mirror. Now, if I look in a mirror, and I put it right up against my face, then my face is going to be really, really close to that reflection. If I hold the mirror further away from my face, then the reflection will be further away. Just like I'm now, as I'm recording this, I'm being reflected into the screen. So the further away I sit from the screen, the further away my image comes up. But if I'm really, really close, then it's going to be very close to the screen. So this works the same way when we're looking at shapes. So the shape that when I reflect it, it needs to be the same distance from the mirror line as the original shape. So if I'm going to reflect this shape here, it has to be exactly the same shape. So I'm going to get my green pen, and this is right next to the mirror line. So therefore, this shape has to start from the mirror line. Okay, and I'm going to go 2 squares, and you'll obviously use your ruler, and then this point here, this one here, that is this point here, and this point here is this point here. This point here will be here, and this one here will be 2 away from the mirror line. So when I draw my shape, I'll join up, and I must remember to come up here. So you can see that my shape, the lines aren't particularly straight, and I should have used a ruler. You can see that my shape is symmetrical to this one. It's been reflected, not quite as straight, but the shape is exactly the same, but it's been reflected. I made sure that my points were the same distance away from the mirror line. So let's have a look at this one here. So this is the same shape, okay, but there is a slight difference. So I'd like you to pause the video and have a little look at what you think that difference is. Okay, so having a look, it's the same shape, but the difference is that my shape this time doesn't start on the mirror line, okay? It starts one square away from the mirror line. So when I'm drawing this point, I need to make sure that this point is 1 square away from the mirror line. So a mistake that can sometimes be made is people will start drawing it from here. That isn't right. I can't start drawing it from there, because then it would not be reflected, because it would not be the same distance. Another mistake that people might make is that they will not look very carefully, and they might start drawing it up here. It's 1 away, but that point is not where it should be. It's not reflected. It needs to be drawn from here. And then I'll look at my next point, this one over here, and that's 1, 2, 3 away from the mirror line. 1, 2, 3 away from the mirror line. So I'll just pop that there. Okay, and again, you can now see that I can draw that first line. Now this point here, again, it's 1 away from the mirror line, and I must make sure they are lined up. And then this point is 3 away from the mirror line. And so my new shape will be here. And again, it's not as straight as you will do it with a ruler. But I am just getting used to all these tools on here. So this shape is reflected. I'd like you to pause the video and think about how you know it is reflected. Okay, so some of the things that you should have thought about, how can we prove that it's reflected? It's because it is the same distance away from the mirror line as the original shape, and I have kept the size of the shape the same. I've kept I haven't spun it around, so the orientation is the same. I haven't rotated it at all, and I haven't moved it up or down, so I haven't translated it. It's in the same place, just on the other side of the mirror line. So now let's have a look at this one. Again, I'm going to go from each point. And this one, that point there is on the mirror line. So it will start here. Now, my next point, if I go from here, is 1, 2 away from the mirror line. 1, 2. So I'm going to draw my next point here. Now, my next point is all the way down here, and that again is 2 away from the mirror line. 1, 2. I'm just going to get a different coloured pen so you can see that I've done that point, I've done this point, I've done this point. So now I'm going to look at this one. So this one here is 1 away from the mirror line, and it will bring me just here. Now let's have a look at this point. We can't forget this point. That is 1 away from the mirror line. Now, sometimes people do forget that point, and then their shape would be slightly different because they'll have missed out a point. And this one, again, is on the mirror line. So now I've got all my points. I can join my shape up. Okay. And then you can see that my shape is reflected. I'd like to pause the video and have a little look at what you can see, what's the same and what's different between these two shapes. Okay, so the thing that's the same is they are the same distance from the mirror line, and they are the same shape, and they are the same size, except it's been flipped. Okay, because when we look in a mirror, it flips it. It makes it appear the opposite way. Okay, so if I was to raise my right hand, if I was looking in a mirror, it would actually look like my left hand. So it's been flipped. The shape itself has been flipped, but everything else is the same. And I went from point to point because a mistake that some people make sometimes is they forget this point here, and then they may end up with a shape that looks like this, or they might have drawn a rectangle. So you must do every single point. Another mistake that people make is that they don't flip that shape. So they would then, let me clear. Oh, I can't. If you don't go from every point, you may end up with a shape that is the same distance from the mirror line, but has not been flipped. So you may have ended up with a shape like this. And that hasn't been flipped, so it's not a reflection. Okay. Now let's have a look at this one. This one's a little bit different because again, it's further away from the mirror line. So again, I have to go from each point, and I'm going to start with this point here. And it's 1, 2, 3 away from the mirror line. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to start my drawing here. Then I'm going to look at this point, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'm going to go to this one, and that's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then let's go to this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll go to this one. And I know that that's going to be 4 because I know it's in line. And then my last one over here. And then I join those together. And they will be the same shape. But again, I have to make sure I flipped it so that it's the reflection. So let's have a look here. I'd like you to pause the video and think about what mistake has been made. Okay, let's look together. So it's 3 squares away from the mirror line. They both are. But the mistake here is it hasn't been flipped around. This should have been flipped like that. Each point needs to reflect. When it was the other way, not each point was reflected. This point and this point were equal distance, but they weren't the same point. This point and this point should have been an equal distance. This one to here, they are not an equal distance apart. Okay, let's have a look here. What mistake has been made? Pause the video and have a little look. Okay, so here, that needs to be the same distance from the mirror line. Okay, so there are 2 mistakes that could be made. Either we don't change the orientation, we don't flip it, sorry, we don't flip the shape, which means that actually the points, each point is not equal from the mirror line, or we make sure that we have done the right thing to the shape, but it's not the same distance from the mirror line and it needs to be the same distance. So your task today is you're going to have a go at reflecting each of those shapes in the mirror line. Okay, and you need to really think carefully about how you're going to do the points. Okay, so pop a point on and count how far away it is from the mirror line and make sure your points are lined up correctly. These ones are all on the mirror line and these ones are all a distance from the mirror line. Okay, and have a little think, especially with B and D, what mistakes could be made. We must remember to flip it. And the way you can remember to flip it and to flip it correctly is to do each point one at a time. Which diagram shows a correct reflection? You need to tick your answer and then have a little think about what mistakes have been made here. Then you can reflect the objects in the given mirror line. And here you'll see we're using coordinates again. So you'll need to use your knowledge from last week of coordinates and answer question 5. And then I want you to really think about what you notice about those coordinates. Okay, thank you and good luck.